July 11, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. There's only one piece of economic data that came out at around 5:30 Pacific Standard, which is about right here. But in the pre-market, it was the core CPI numbers, as well as the unemployment claims. As you can tell, this big spike up, this is about a 20-point move almost. Let's see, well, yeah, pretty close to 20-point spike on this one candle. So this is a big, I guess, positive reaction. It hit the high, and then in the pre-market, it almost took it all the way back. Then it chopped around, consolidated on the open, and then the rest of the day proceeded to sell off in a very choppy but gradual sell-off right here. And then it hit kind of, I didn't know at the time, but it turned out to be kind of this large range defined by the kind of this top resistance and maybe this bottom support. I found today actually kind of challenging. It wasn't the most obvious. The reason being is because I was having trouble, even this red channel, it wasn't very decisive, very clean. And inside there's all these smaller channels that they didn't really, I couldn't find them in a clear fashion. What I mean is like you want like two, so if you're trying to find a trend line and then you turn it into a trend channel, you want to find like a high point wherever you start it, and you want to see where the channel starts going down. So then you try to find the second swing high, or if you're going to go, if the channel's moving up, then second move up or second move down. So let's say I'm looking for a channel here. I found something like that, and this is on the big scale, but if you go zoom in, I'm going to point them out later. The third one looks like it violates it. So if you try to touch the third one, sometimes the second one punches through, or the second one doesn't even reach. And there are a lot of instances like that where it made it difficult to find very, I guess, well-defined channels, because you'd have all these weird little choppy actions. So it's kind of like a bad haircut that needed just to be smoothed out. And so it ends up, I found setups, but a lot of them were what I call almost setups, meaning they're almost a trade that looks good and they fall short because the signal bar isn't right. They're on the wrong side of the EMA. But then in today, the EMA didn't really act too reliably because you'd often see prices shoot above or below it. So I couldn't really trust the EMA in a lot of the setups. And then probably right until after 2 hours of trading, you clearly already know there's a huge sell-off going on, but it was because of what I described previously, it was hard to trust if the setup is going to start having these small little corrections, and you might get stuck because a setup might occur where something looks like it could reverse. So it just made for more of a challenging day for me to try to decipher what was going on. And even after the trading day, when I go back and I re-review the charts, knowing I know what happens, I try to see if there was a setup or something subtle that I missed. And even then, I had trouble even, re-examining the finished chart, knowing ahead of time what was going to happen. So it's just kind of a challenging day overall. Now, having said that, I did take 2 trades that were, I feel, pretty safe. And then afterwards, seeing this noise, there was a lot of volume, a lot of movement today. I kind of, my brain kind of got overloaded, got mentally exhausted. I knew if I kept trading after a certain point, like right around here, looking for setups, because there's a lot of almost setups, that I'd probably make a mistake. So I decided to just be happy and walk away with the 2 trades. Later, I did find some possible trades. So I'm going to go into the chart read right now and try to hurry because I know I ramble. Okay, in the pre-market, you see this gigantic spike up, and it pretty much almost takes back the entire move. So I don't know what to expect. I was thinking we're going to be in a trading range. This is my initial thoughts when I saw the pre-market. I saw one big leg down, a potential push up, kind of a choppy move. I'm thinking there's probably going to be a potential second measured move down. I found these smaller short and trend channels inside the pre-market, but it didn't really matter. It's just more for me to practice my chart reading. And so there was no trades that I would take here. So then market starts to open. And so there are like second entries that set up, but on a technical count, they are second entries, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're a good trade, because if they're too tightly spaced together, meaning they don't break out in any direction, looks like it's ranging and congested, then you could easily get stopped out by these one tick moves, moving up or down. I found a couple of those today as well. So prices are just kind of chopping. And now it's starting to show a bearish bias. I first drew this green trend line coming down. And I thought there was some kind of support here. So it almost looks like it's wedging, but there's no real pattern other than potentially it's in a trading range. It bounces up. It kind of consolidates here what looks like a support. So I did draw this blue as a potential trading range, but I'm not real keen on this trading range because there's too much space up here. It's not really obeying the trading range rules. So it feels more like this green channel could be dominating. It looks like it's following pretty closely, but again, it's respecting the support. And it finally flashes up as a failed breakout up here. Technically, you have a new low here, first entry short right here. Technically, you have a second entry short, and I saw a lot of these throughout the day where there's a second entry short, but here you're not even thinking short yet. You're thinking potential failed breakout, but you need a little bit more than that, and this isn't even a good signal bar. Then you have a confirmed second entry short. Prices look like they're moving back in, but it just felt, there's a lot of these setups, a lot of things that I saw that look like this today are similar that just makes you pause and question it. Drops around, so if you did take a short, you had to sit through all this noise before you potentially get an exit here. And at this point, you're not really sure what the EMA is going to do. Is it going to be helpful or is it just going to be kind of unreliable? Turns out for the better part of the day, it turns out to be not very reliable because it doesn't really act as a clean support or clean resistance. So it kind of discounts it as a key entry point. It chops around. It's just not looking that great right now. Still staying within this blue trading range. Things are just not that clean, not that easy to decipher. There's a new high here. First entry long, pullback. You technically have a second entry long here, but here you're not even thinking long, you're just thinking potential trading range. Maybe it's two-tiered, but it's just, ambiguous. So I don't stress over a setup like that. When it moves up, it hits what I think is a potential resistance, pushes up. Now keep in mind this red channel doesn't exist yet because it comes really late in the day. So if you see that red line, just ignore it. Pushes up. So I do see a new low here. It's a first entry short here, second entry short. And this actually sets up my first trade. So I wanted this one. This is almost anything, almost something, because I wanted this candle actually tick one tick above and then flush down. But since it made a double top, because I had my order actually ready, because I was going, I'm going to go short here, but I need this guy to tick above and then flush down. But it kind of runs away without me. It flushes down because this extra confirmation of it trapping people going long, thinking it's going to push up here, would kind of give me a little bit more confidence because I'm potentially running into, again, at this point, I'm not 100% sure of the EMA. I don't know if it's going to act as a resistance or in this case, a support yet. So when this flushed through, I canceled my order and I waited. So I said, oh, wow, this is a really nice candle. It's either moving back into this trading range or if this is the high of the trading range. But I want to see something push through this one because this is where I thought maybe there's a trading range. It kind of fit a little cleaner. So now it pushes through. I thought, okay, I definitely missed this trade. But then it reverses up. It reverses up by one tick, almost touches the EMA, which at this point in time, I'm still thinking it might be something useful. And then it flushes down and flushes down hard. So I thought, okay, this looks like it's moving back down to the other side. This is potentially a failed breakout on a larger time scale. I want to enter. And so I entered one tick below this guy. So it's right here. And I get my fill. I'm just going for a quick 1-point scalp, clearly before there's any potential support bounce here. I was able to quickly get out. But it turns out the trade moved much farther, which is fine because I'm just going for my quick little in and quick little jump out scalp. Moves down, and I drew this orange channel. Now, this orange channel kept evolving, and this is one of the challenges of today. Because if you take it from up here, I eventually had to cut it through here, but I thought maybe it's a little bit tighter here. Maybe it's something closer to trying to find the second swing high, maybe something like this. But then so this is this faint green line. It already violated and kept pushing down, so I had to keep widening it, try to capture more of the price action to make it make sense. And here, it just kept going down. So this is the channel at the time. Then I had to keep making it more and more shallow. And then I decided, well, maybe it actually starts up here and it cuts through a little bit. So the second swing high, it's not really being touched. And then it kept going down. It touches where I consider the second swing high. And I actually reversed my thinking and thinking, is there a better, cleaner touch on the bottom that I can work backwards from? And it didn't really quite fit that well either. So seeing this big move, I already knew there was a trade. I missed it because it already moved so far down. I just decided, okay, well, at least I know it's selling off. Wait for this mess to clean up before looking for a setup. I also saw this potentially as a measured move has been made. One leg down, this junky consolidation, just noisy, and the second move down. So it potentially made a measured move. So I'm thinking there's a potential reversal. It is far from the EMA though, so I'd need a very clean setup. And it doesn't. It just kind of keeps chopping and it keeps going down. So now I have a violation here at break. So could this be a break of this orange channel, breaking a new low? Maybe. It depends on how you drew it. So, it's a little ambiguous. Again, I'm just waiting for something to clean up, or ideally some kind of second entry short back to the EMA, or a failed second entry long back to the EMA. It doesn't really quite do it. So if it's like a first entry short, it just hits this consolidation. I'm thinking I see support. This is also the low of day, this dotted red line. So it's just very not the easiest for me to decipher. I mean, in the grand context, I can tell what's going on, but then jumping in for a tight scalp trade, it felt dicey. So it comes up, there's a new low here, technically a new low here. So first entry short pullback. It creates a second entry short. Now this second entry short, I thought was like an almost trade because it's after this break of this orange down channel. The new low was tested because if you count this as the break, it broke and it tested the low, kind of made a double bottom. Didn't really quite push all the way down, but it could have been good enough. So could this be a potential reversal? I'm not sure. The second entry short I also didn't like because right now the EMA does look like it is some kind of importance. So I'm forming above. So, I wanted to see maybe a lower high confirmation. This is a nice signal bar that is really small, but it's just not good enough for a setup. So it's a little ambiguous. So I'm waiting for a lower high. And then I do get a lower high here, confirmed lower high here. But when you see this in real time, it's a doji. So it just looks, there's just a lot of things that kind of take away from the, uh, I guess, the good feeling that this is a possible trade. So, you just kind of abandon the whole setup right now. Like you don't think, at least I don't think there's anything worthwhile taking right here. It flashes up. So you do have a new high, first entry long, second entry long, but you're not thinking long at this point. You're just thinking there's a potential resistance here. And of course, it flashes up, it fools you. If you took a long, that's a really great read, I would say, but it's a little dicey. If you took a short here, it looks like it would have trapped you. If you're thinking what I was thinking, looking for the lower high, you would have seen something like this and thought, okay, well, I'm going to enter. Either you would have kept it down here or you would have done maybe what I would have done, which is one tick below this guy, probably get a fill and then get trapped and then get stopped out here. So this was just kind of a mess. Prices move up. It starts pushing back down. This is actually where I get my second trade up. Up until now, I'm already pretty sure, like, okay, it doesn't look like it's a trading range anymore. It looked like it had a breakout. It failed to move back into the pre-market low. But it doesn't look like it wants to move back in. Plus, there's just this imbalance. There's too much bearish push going on. There's not enough price action trying to move back up here. Keep in mind this red line doesn't exist yet. I'm just going to go ahead and delete it for now. And so it's just, okay, it looks like prices are coming back down. I see something like this. I see, okay, potentially visually uh, new low here, first entry short, second entry short. I also saw a new high, a very small break up here, first entry long pullback. It creates a second entry long right here. Not only did it create a second entry long, this second entry long looks like it's about to fail. Now, before I take a trade, I noticed it did fall short by one tick of meeting the lows of this guy and the low of this guy. So it could have a triple test and then bounce and move back up. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure the next candle broke below these two decisively, and then I would probably enter at the lows of this candle. So that's exactly what I did. I saw it break down. So it was kind of like floating here. It finally broke down below. It hit this low and I decided to drop in my order. It was actually at the lows of this candle. It didn't look like it was going to fill. So I finally moved it one tick down and I quickly got this sell. I thought, okay, there's enough room before it hits the bottom. And this is a nice close on this candle and then a subsequent close on this candle. So here I had to sit through this, wondering if I'm going to get stopped out because I actually kept my stop a little high up here above the EMA, flushed down and was able to quickly get the scalp. So this one was I felt confident about this trade. This one I felt confident, but then it did make me, I guess, sweat a little bit when I was thinking, did it get my read right? I wanted it to break below the support before I entered, and I did. So I wasn't really sure, especially when I saw this one come up, but my stop's up here. I was thinking maybe I'm going to get stopped out. I want to see it break above the EMA, and then I may have just kind of dropped it down a little bit lower just to get stopped out early. But I kind of stuck to my guns, watched and waited, and it worked out. Now, this isn't the best trade in hindsight, but in real time, I thought, okay, I think I have it dialed in. Then prices continue moving. It's testing the lows. It continues chopping. EMA starting to look like it's acting as some kind of resistance. You have a new low here, first entry short, second entry short technically here, but you have a follow-up doji, so it makes it look, well, it just looks risky and congested here. Prices then continue chopping, starts moving down on this orange down channel. It breaks and tests the new low. So I'm thinking, has the downtrend played out? Hard to say, because during this time, I was also looking for anything like an overall dominating channel, but it only really touched once here, because if you did try to make it tighter, then you have these big violations and there's no clean confirmation, because you can maybe argue for 2 touches here, but you don't have 3 touches. You could say maybe there's a 3rd touch here, maybe prices are moving down, but it just was a little unsure for me, because you could have a break here and a continue move down. EMA is starting to hold, prices down. It starts pushing back up, and now the EMA doesn't look like it's holding right now. It's pushing up. You do have a new low, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short here, but it felt really far from the setup. Pushes down, hits this area of support. I eventually drew it as a line, but it's hitting this area of support. It creates a new high, first entry long pullback. I'm wondering, is there a second entry long potential triple test? I don't know. Then it makes a double top, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe there is a triple test here. Then it makes a triple test top and a double bottom. So now I'm just confused. I'm not even sure, which way it's going, because clearly the day has been bearish, but here it looks like it wants to reverse, but it's not a clean setup. I'm potentially running into the EMA, which is starting to lose reliability. I do see a push up, then down. It's a failed second entry long, but the problem with this failed second entry long, it's what I call an almost trade. It's a bullish momentum, looks like it's kind of fading. And the prices are struggling, though, to break through this support and potentially this support down here, because this is also the low of day. I like that it flashed up one and it closed below. So engulfed these 3 previous bars, but the close on this guy is not clean. It's not clear because it's closing right where support is. So is this going to be a failed second entry long continuation, or is it going to be a trap and actually kind of reverse and go back up? So that, just kind of playing these things in my mind, it just felt a little unclear. I needed a cleaner, less sketchy signal bar. But then, even then, I'm concerned that I'm going to run into this low of day, which could act as a support, because on a bigger context, it looks like it's starting to flatten and maybe reverse back up. Of course, it flushes down, so it would have worked as a short, but I'm okay not taking the trade. I also, if this had actually spiked up, touched the EMA and flushed down, it would give more reason to go short, but it was just kind of in the middle. And prices move down, it goes down on this orange down channel break. And again, I want to say that I was searching for bigger channels, try to contain everything to help me, because clearly, prices are selling off. And if you know that, that's already good that you know the bias, but I need the trend lines as guidelines to see where a potential setup is. I don't like just kind of taking it off a straight context when there's so much things going on, especially on a really choppy day like today. Then it kind of consolidates, starts moving back down, breaks below the EMA, comes back up, and then flushes down. No clear entries that I could see. The new high here, first entry long, pull back. You don't even get a second entry long. It just kind of keeps moving down. It's creating consistently new lows every time. This is dotted the red line, which is the new low of the day. You have a new low, first entry short, pullback. You technically have a second entry short. I drew this blue line after the fact, but potentially you could say there's a triple test here. But by the time this one, because you don't know if it's going to keep going, it's potentially still in this orange channel. It didn't really hit the highs yet. Flushes down. Now the trade looks like it's too late. I don't want to chase this. Plus, The EMA, which is kind of iffy today, it could be acting as a support. It could also be the first break of this orange channel and could reverse if you want to test this high. So definitely no trade here. If you did try to enter short, you'd be in the trade now, and your stop's probably going to be up here with your profit target, depending on what you're aiming for, down here. So you'd be sitting through this ambiguous noise, being pretty nervous. Here, maybe you got out. Here, you definitely got out. But, why live through this kind of ambiguity? Especially in real time, you're starting to see the EMA flatten. So you're thinking trading range. The trading range, it's a little hard to know, which way it's going to go. Plus, it's moving the full span of this tight range. Then prices start moving down on this yellow down channel. There was no, this yellow down channel was tighter initially. I'm thinking, okay, is there a clean setup I can get? There's a break here, and it starts pushing up to the other side. Starts pushing up to the other side, break, tested the new high. I do have this blue line here at this point. I'm thinking I want it to come up, touch here, give me a clean second entry short, because you have a kind of a not very clear first entry short here, potentially second entry short, or you could see this as a localized new low, and it could be a first entry short. So technically, you have a second entry short confirmed here, but at this point, I don't have a trade ready because I didn't expect something like, well, it's not that I didn't expect it, it's just I'm looking for another move up before I get a trade ready. It doesn't do that and it starts reversing back down. So it failed to hit this high. You have a first entry long pull back, second entry long here, but you're not thinking going long because the signal bar just isn't good enough. Then it starts moving back down and creates a first entry short, pull back. It creates a second entry short, but its signal bar is a doji. It doesn't look that clean. It's hard to know that this is going to happen. Pushes up, it breaks through this. And I'm thinking maybe there's a potential failed breakout if this truly is the top of the range. The problem was I was having trouble finding the bottom of the range because was it going to be here, which looks like it fits pretty well, or was it going to be slightly lower? But even then, it really only had two confirmations. So it's in a range of some kind. It's showing range characteristics, but the highs and lows to try to set up a trade aren't the cleanest, except maybe the highs is cleaner than the bottom. Prices move up. I see a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. Now this second entry long, excuse me, I actually thought was a possible trade. The second entry long, it looks like it's about to fail. Here, I'm not as worried about the EMA because it's starting to act, inconsistent. It's not being reliable because prices are not respecting it at all. It's pushing above, pushing below, pushing above, pushing below. I'm thinking more this is a failed breakout, move back into range. I'm not too concerned about this EMA, but I will show some kind of respect to potentially this as a support bounce, which is slightly below the EMA. So I'm not worried that I'm going to hit the EMA. I'm more worried that I might hit this. But I thought this is a possible trade. A little more aggressive, but it looks like it would work. And it did, but I didn't have a trade ready. Prices then continue moving down. It hits the bottom here and bounces. So here, I'm not sure if this is actually the bottom of the range anymore and actually might be down here. Because, as you can see, with more prices moving, it looks like this could be the bottom of the range. Comes up, bounces. It looks like there's some kind of triple test support, triple test resistance here. This is a new low, first entry short, second entry short, it's a bad signal bar. The localized new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long, also a bad signal bar. So it looks like it's exhibiting range characteristics. It pushes up one leg, pulls back. I thought this is going to be maybe the top of a smaller range, but it ends up consolidating up here. So that's where I actually drew this blue trading range. It flushes down, hits kind of the midline. But at this point, I'm not really paying too much attention to this because this was maybe important at one time or just not important at all. But it just, in this case, the prices have moved too far to have any relevance for this line. So we'll go ahead and just get rid of it there. Prices move, so there's a new high, first entry long pullback, creates a second entry long. The second entry long has a strong reversal. I'm thinking there's a potential failed second entry long here, but I didn't like that it didn't break below to get the strong confirmation of a failure. So I thought it was an almost trade because it looks like this is moving back into range. So it had this push up, double test here, pushing back down. I'm expecting prices to come back down, not here, but here. So, but I just needed this to break through. So it finally breaks through, but I feel like I'm too late for this trade now. So I'm looking for a lower high confirmation. But if I didn't jump on this trade, I'm looking for a lower high, and it creates this lower high. Now, what stopped me from taking this lower high confirmation, because I thought this is an almost trade, like this is an almost trade, and this is an almost trade. I like that it hit the EMA, but then remember, I'm not sure about the EMA at this point, but it did have just something. What I needed more is more proof to take a short trade, but it looked like it didn't close at the bottom. It pushed to the bottom and pulled back up. It's a confirmed lower high, and the follow-up just didn't feel that convincing. You could argue that it's maybe a 1, 2, 3 touch, and then potentially moving down on this channel. So I just thought it was an almost trade. It just needed a better signal bar close. Prices move down, it breaks out below, starts chopping around. So it's a break of this yellow down channel overshoot. I'm thinking potential overshoot on this side. There's a new low, first entry short, technically a second entry short, but it's also looking like it's hitting some kind of support here. Pushes down. It gets a little bit, it finds some trouble breaking through. This is the low of day here. So at this point, I see this like 1 attempt, 2 attempt, 3 attempts, and even in those 3 attempts, there's a bunch of candles having trouble breaking through this 5630 line. And I did draw this at this point. I originally had it down here, but I wanted to include this one. So I thought, okay, well, it's close enough. It's only 1 tick away. There's just some kind of zone of support here. Could this be a start of a move back up? Maybe the overall trading range is the high here, resistance, and low here, support. But it's just, okay, I need some kind of setup. EMA may or may not be reliable. So if it's may or may not be reliable or starting to have relevance, I count it as don't trust it yet. So it pushes up, it creates a higher low, and this higher low is pretty nice that it closed very bullish, and it closed at the top of this trading range. So this could be a failed breakout, and on the same move, it almost hit the other side. So is it going to make a second attempt and touch this side? I'm leaning more toward a potential breakout pullback because it had so much trouble breaking the support. This could be argued that it already hit the bottom and it's coming back up. I need to see what the next candle does. Next candle does confirm a higher low, but it's not a clean enough setup. So it's like an almost setup for me, or almost trade. I need something more decisive. I needed to get through this little zone. Then it creates this new low, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short. Then you have a second entry short failure. Now, this second entry short failure, I thought it was a possible trade, but when I saw this flash up, I thought, oh, wow, this is really strong. There's enough momentum to push up and through. And I saw that this candle is 3.3 points, 3.25 points. So that's like 13 ticks. So that's really big as a risk because you have to keep it way down here. So I wanted to enter right at the highs here. So I had an order ready. And when this candle formed, my order is sitting way down here with my stop, 1 tick below to reduce my risk. It never came back. It just kind of kept going. So this is kind of a missed trade. But again, just seeing the day, and you can even see how I'm describing it today, I wasn't the most dialed in on what the heck was going on today. It was just a lot of choppiness. So, and it was getting toward, there's only about 2 hours left in the day. I just took these 2 trades early on, and I was pretty happy with the green profit. So now I was hoping things would clear up, but seeing this big move flash up and not getting filled down here, I kind of resigned myself to just be happy with 2 trades and kind of go into cruise mode where I'm just looking for setups, but not really likely going to take a trade. I mean, it had to be super duper A plus setup with a lot of things going for it, which today there's just a lot of, at least in my interpretation, read of the charts, there was just a lot of ambiguity. So I left it alone. So I just ended up leaving trades alone. The prices continue moving up. You do have a potentially first entry short, second entry short, higher low here, but it's so far from the EMA. Maybe it's this orange channel was actually tighter initially, something like this. So you're seeing it punch up reverse. It wants to test the highs here. And in real time, it's already close to making it. So you don't know if it's going to hit it and then reverse back down on you. So depending on your profit target, it would have potentially made it if you took 1 or 2 points. But then again, it does that reversal. Here, when it hit the EMA, I was wondering how relevant is the EMA? Unknown. And as you can see, it didn't really respect it too much, and it just kind of pushes back through. There's a new high, first entry long, second entry long, second entry long. It's not the best signal bar. Again, I'm just kind of mentally exhausted at this point that I didn't really, kind of on me, didn't really pay attention as closely for looking for trades at this point, especially knowing that I just came off of 2 trade win. I didn't really want to risk anything else. Prices then move up, kind of hits this consolidation. I'm thinking there's a potential trading range. I think I have the range actually a little bit lower, about right here. And this one is about where I had it. It's a failed breakout, pushes up, and I saw this as a new high, first entry long, pullback. This creates a second entry long, and it's a higher low. There's a higher low than here, and it looks like prices are starting to move back in. EMA is starting to become relevant. So I thought this was a possible trade, but again, I wasn't going to take any trades anymore. So I just let it skip by. I was wondering if it's going to create a lower high here and potentially a failed second entry short. So it creates a second entry short. Second entry short hasn't failed yet. Now the second entry short has failed. You could say it's a new low, first entry short, second entry short. From here, it's a new high, first entry long, second entry long, higher low for the second entry long confirmation, and failed second entry short. So this is a possible trade, and there is just enough room to skip to scalp out. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and label it. I didn't label it before. Go ahead and say it's a potential failed second entry short and higher low confirming the second entry long, the original second entry long. Prices continue moving, it chops. I'm thinking a failed breakout here. This blue line was originally based off of this, so it had some kind of hit and rejection. Now, is this trading range still valid? On the bigger time frame, it is, but EMA is starting to creep up, and I'm noticing prices are getting crushed by the EMA and potentially by this resistance. So it wouldn't surprise me if I had another failed breakout here. So I'm just kind of watching carefully. But my bias is thinking that prices are actually going to come back down, maybe touch the EMA, but if it breaks through the EMA, my expectation is going to come down to here. If the EMA holds, my expectation is it might break through this. So EMA looks like it's holding, comes back down, gets tested a second time, now it breaks through. So now I'm expecting prices to come back down here if my trading range is valid. It comes back down and touches twice, so that's pretty good. Then it starts reversing up. So I'm thinking here, my bias now is thinking, okay, it's probably going to stay in this range, bounce back up, potentially touch here. If it breaks through here, my expectation is going to move up to here. So it touches this, bounces, comes back down, touches again, and it finally breaks down through the bottom. Okay, so this trading range could have a failed breakout and another move back in, but the trading range I think is still in play. Failed breakout, kind of consolidates and moves back in. So I'm thinking prices are going to come back up to here. This is a second entry short and it's the top of the trading range, but this is already late in the day. So it's actually a new low here. You have first entry short, push up, second entry short, added with a potential top of the range, potential tiny fail breakout. So this is a possible trade, I thought, but it's just too late in the day. Kind of bounces around and it kind of starts floating inside this expanded trading range. This blue one was earlier, and now it's this red one. And it keeps chopping, and it's moving into the last 10 minutes into the close. So it wasn't the most obvious. There were a lot of almost setups for me today. Now, I have no doubt traders that are much, much better than me would have seen something, those almost trades might have actually become possible trades in a different, if you viewed it differently or you just had a better read on this than I did. But as I said, it was hard for me to find kind of the big dominating, things are selling off, but to find the big dominating, I guess, down channel, it wasn't the easiest. And even then, these down channels I was questioning because the second swing highs, sometimes they just didn't line up quite well. And so ended up for it was a day that I had to really, really dial in my focus to kind of see what was going on, because there was little moves here and there that were potentially faking me out. On top of that, there was a lot of price action today, a lot more compared to yesterday. Like the last 3 days, you look at these tiny, this is the whole day of trading. And today, you could easily say there's twice as many candles as was it previously. And the candles were closing relatively quickly. So you have to decide on if the setup is there or not in real time. Even then, when I went back and reviewed the chart, under a better, slower time frame, meaning I could take as long as I needed to debate and pretty much, really critique a setup, it wasn't the easiest at that point either. So it was, for me, kind of a challenging day. I'm glad I exited with, two green trades, and then some of the trades here, maybe they were there, maybe they weren't, and I'm okay having skipped those. So challenging day. Hopefully it was helpful.